And owning your mind gives them opportunity to direct your life and allows Satan a door into your head using technology. And they're going to get people to sign a contract to do it. At least it's their own version of a contract. And what I mean by that is you have the World Bank and Verizon chiefs saying that the digital ID is part of a social contract between governments and citizens. Did you guys know that this is going to be some type of contract when you accept it? Now, I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, social contract connected to digital ID, which will get connected to CBDCs or digital currencies or however they're going to go about doing that. This is just a precursor, just a step towards that life-changing contract that Satan is going to offer in the end, which will be the mark of the beast. And so I think this is just prepping for it. No, don't take this out of context. Don't even. I can see the people getting ready to clip things and they're getting their keyboards ready to email me. Are you saying that is the mark of the beast? No, I'm not. I'm saying it's a precursor. Calm down. There's a difference. So what's going on with this? It's coming out of Reclaim the Net. This was March 15th, 16th, something like that. It says it right there, but it's too small even for me to read. Anyways, it was recently. It says, what is interesting is the way they are explaining the push and also how they propose to make mass worldwide adoption of digital IDs a reality. There's also a corporate speak cliche in the making for all this digital transformation journey. The pairing that is the World Bank and Verizon makes sense because in order to have people's identities and financial assets centralized in the way people proposed by various centralized in the way proposed by various digital ID schemes, they need to first have access to the internet. And this is, again, where I think Starlink is going to play a major point because while they can't get cable, the internet cables and stuff into some of these places, Starlink is already set up for it. I think, what is it, 92? I think they've got 92% of the world covered. That doesn't mean 92% of the world has Starlink because it's not that set up yet. But I believe the satellites cover about 92% of all occupied territory in the world. So I think that's what's going to play a part in this. Goes on to say a recent meeting in Washington, D.C., dubbed the Global Digital Summit, saw the two respective financial and telecommunication heavy hitters agree that governments must make digital IDs a component of what's known as the social contract with citizens. What this means, what this would mean is the citizens willingly defer to the authorities as they accept digital IDs and do this supposedly to their own advantage. You think? This is World Bank Group President Ajay Abanga seemed particularly keen on expanding digital ID adoption top down. So those at the top start pushing all their junk down. That's basically the best way to put it. If you've ever seen the little cartoon comic strip of it shows how a corporation is set up, you have the big bird up at top, and then you have a couple more birds right below him. They've got some bird poop on them, and then you go a little bit further down, they've got even more bird poop, and then you go to the very bottom, and they're just completely covered. That's basically what's going on with this. It's the best way to do it. If you've never seen that cartoon, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but if you have, you probably get it. This is adoption top down by getting as many governments as possible on side who would then, thanks to the social contract idea, impose it on citizens rather than wait for citizens to, if ever, warm up to the scheme. Finally, goes on to say, I think that if governments embrace digital, they could create transparency, clean governance, and citizen engagement. Clean governance. If there's anything that two words do not deserve to go together, it's clean and government. Just saying. And citizen engagement, Banga said. He also noted that the World Bank is spending money in Africa in a bid to give access to electricity to hundreds of millions of people who don't have it yet as the precondition for getting them connected. It looks like like when selling the digital ID and possibly experimenting with implementations, underdeveloped and developing countries are an important target while promises of economic process are a way of persuading them to join in. So if you go into these underdeveloped countries and these third world countries and say, hey, we're going to give you electricity and internet, and then you just sign up for this and you'll have a better economic life, well, there's usually a catch. Nothing is ever as good as it always seems. There's always a hook and always a catch. And so that's where the social contract comes in mind. You're going to give us your life if we offer you these things to get you out of poverty. It's a tale as old as time itself. And that's just how it goes. Is, you know, I'll take you out of, I'll give you money and take you out of poverty. You just give me your life. Happens all the time. Happens all the time. And that's basically what they're offering on this. So it says the idea of a social contract is a way of getting people switched over under the pretense that it's the government's job to provide everyone an identity, currency, and safety. Really? Is that a fact? The job of the government is to provide everybody an identity, currency, and safety? The problem is, while much of the developed world believes this, which this is the society that they have built and indoctrinated into people, that the government, big daddy government, owns you these or owes you these things, is not how it's supposed to go down. None of it is correct. Let's take a look at the three. So they say it's part of the government's job is to give its citizens an identity. Well, our identity should be found in Christ and his word, not provided by the government. No, our identity should be found in Jesus Christ. That's where we find life. That's how we know we're on the right way, is we live according to him, and our identity is found within his word and him. But the government says, no, it's their job to provide the identity. But what they actually mean by that is they're not there to provide you an identity. They're there to provide you with an ownership number. You're just a number to them, which means we own you. That's what they mean by that. Currency, again, they say that's part of the job of the government, is they owe currency to their citizens. Well, currency is something also not the responsibility of the government. Why? Gold can be found, earned, and traded without the government, as well as bartering still exists as well. Key things where the government has absolutely no control or say into any of that stuff. And that can also be currency in both ways. So is it the job of the government to provide currency? No. Actually, I think it would be a whole lot better if they didn't. That's just my opinion. And so if everything was gold and bartering like that, that would be a free market, something both the government and Satan do not want. So they don't want a free market. Even though they say, at least here in the United States, we have a free market, we absolutely do not, even though they like to claim that it is. So if the government issues currency, that means they have control of it. And Satan definitely doesn't want that either, as well as when we look into, again, Revelation, it tells us that there's going to be a one world economy. So obviously he doesn't want that either, or doesn't want free market either. Safety also is not the job of the government. Now, there's going to be some people that probably disagree with me. That's fine. Not like it really matters now anyways. But safety is definitely not the job of the government. They're not responsible for it either, especially when safety provided is always at a cost to personal freedom. If you want safety, you have to give up some type of privacy, freedom, or something in between in order to get it. You don't just get free safety. That's just not how it works. You have to give something up for it. Now, law and order are two different things. Law and order is actually biblical. But law and order does not mean safety. Those are two different things. So don't try and pack them together. They're actually two different things. And when it comes to safety, personal safety, well, that comes down to personal responsibility, which that's something that nobody wants to have anymore anyways. Again, go and ask them. They think Big Daddy government is the one that owes them everything, including safety. So nobody has personal responsibility anymore either. So, and again, I know some people might disagree. And I will sit here and say it doesn't really matter because everything unfolding right now, it's going to unfold. So, but what is happening with this social contract digital ID is a preconditioning and a progression towards that most final contract that we read in Revelation. Again, that's going to happen when the mark of the beast steps onto the scene. No, this is not the mark. Stop it. It's not. Neither was the 2020 thing. Neither is the CBDC itself. Neither is the digital ID itself, because if that was the case, there's countries out there that already have digital ID and CBDC and all that stuff, and there's still no beast on the scene, and you know, there's no worship of the beast associated with it and stuff. So stop it. It's just getting people ready for it, getting people ready, preconditioning the masses for what's coming. Okay, I'm ready for it now. Somebody's gonna leave a comment. You saying that's the mark of the beast? No. I just know it's coming. Anyways, so again, we're starting to see progression in more ways than one, not necessarily the physical, tangible stuff that we see happening already, but also in the terms of even getting people ready for a contract type of thing. Like you've heard the global citizen thing as well, where everybody's a global citizen. Well, that's part of this one world thing as well. It's these little things like that that are getting people, conditioning people to accept the big stuff when it's coming post rapture, into the day of the Lord, into Daniel's 70th week, and so on and so on. Now, this is another step in the direction of combining the physical world with the virtual world, as described by the WEF's, or World Economic Forum's, latest report. Oh boy, this is telling. I'll tell you what. The latest report from the WEF, along with the censure, is Metaverse identity defining the self in a blended society. Yikes. Yeah, this was not a pleasant read. I'll tell you that much. I actually want to go back and reread some of it because there's some telling stuff in there. It's like 44 pages long. You guys ready to read the whole thing? Because we're going to go through it word by no, we're not going to do that. But it's telling. There's a lot of information packed into that report about what they're trying to do with a blended reality. And okay, so I still get questions every once in a while, and that's cool, about what is blended reality, what is augmented reality, what are these things? So we have virtual reality, which is basically you enter into a full-on virtual world. So virtual reality is you put on goggles and then you're basically moving through all virtual just by on the screen that you're watching. Obviously physical reality is where we're at now, you know, type of deal. Augmented reality is stuff that we kind of see in some of these movies like Minority Report and whatnot, where it's kind of a mix of adding virtual stuff to the physical world. So say you were to put on like a pair of just like regular glasses, and so you have the glasses off, and say you're like in the room I'm in right now. It's like I got the walls, I got my computer, and I got my desk, lights, and my bed's over there, and I got all that stuff. If I put on glasses, all of a sudden, if I see like a virtual billboard on my wall or something like that, that would be augmented reality. It's taking some of the virtual world and putting it into the physical world. I'll still walk around in the physical world, but I'm seeing virtual stuff at the same time. So it's kind of the augmented and blended reality all kind of mixing together of the physical and virtual world. So hopefully that answers what that is. So it's just you're adding virtual elements to a physical world. You're still moving within the physical world, but seeing those virtual elements. I may have just confused some people even more. I'm used to that. Sorry. You can probably go on YouTube and type in what is augmented reality and stuff, and you probably find somebody better at describing it. Hopefully that answers your question, though, and I didn't confuse you even more. Okay, let's get back into this report thing. Some of the stuff that they talk about is telling. Again, we're not going to go through the whole thing, but you can just kind of get an idea of what's going on of this report, what they're aiming for, just by looking at their table of contents here. It says Metaverse identity, a story about the Metaverse identity, the role of identity, what is a Metaverse identity? And then it goes into 2, inferring identity from data, says your metaverse identity generates data. How metaverse identity data is processed matters. AI, ML role in inferred data. New lexicon required to describe I was going to say Mexican. I don't know where that came from. Metaverse identity. Sorry. Taco Tuesday, everybody. Data processing trade-offs, and then identification in the metaverse. You notice how they split identity and identification? This is something that I actually learned too, and I'm going to share this with you guys in a second. Digital ID and representation, bifurcation, digital ID and representation. New form factors of digital ID, know your customer in the metaverse, and requirement for a nuanced digital identity approach. Let's keep going. It says metaverse identity encompasses representation, including personal, social, and role identity, be it through avatars, synonyms, or other digital expressions. There we go. Data, capturing the intricate web of knowledge about individuals generated by metaverse supporting hardware and software. And then ID, identification, be it through driver's licenses, government issued IDs, passports, birth certificates, attestations, labels, or usernames or passwords. So as people spend more time exploring, playing, and socializing in digital experiences, a person's metaverse identity will be central to their day-to-day life. You guys, a person's metaverse identity will be central to their day-to-day life, essential to your day-to-day life, as well as the way they express their personal identity. Education on what it is and how to use it safely will be transformational. What they're trying to do, again, blended reality. They're trying to mix the digital side of you as well as the physical side of you and mix it together. And it's going to be that this metaverse life, whether metaverse is the Facebook metaverse or something else that they're building entirely, I don't know. But whatever it is, they're saying this is going to be part of your day-to-day life. You better get used to the physical and the virtual, according to what they are telling us. And so when you start talking about playing tricks on people's minds, the invasion of people's heads, when you start mixing virtual and digital to physical of people's actual brain, you're starting to enter into a territory, especially if you sign a social contract that says you will own nothing. You're entering into a time of full on just whatever you're giving them full access to your head, which again, not even I need to be up in my head right now. I can only imagine what they're going to do with it. But all jokes aside, this is what Satan wants. This is what Satan wants. In order for him to imitate being God, since he can't be God, he has to imitate. And through technology, getting access to everybody's heads will give him more ability to play God. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But one of the things that they got on here is different levels of your identity types. And you have the human, which is an individual identity. This may be, I hate that word, manifested through a digital entity. And then you have digital entity, which is avatars, chatbots, virtual agents, digital twins, which they've already got us as digital twins now. But this is representation. These are the different layers of it. And you got designing for inclusion, diversity, and account accessibility. That's right, the DEI of your digital identity. You got data, which is collecting and processing data about me. And then your identification, managing identity and identifying oneself. Okay, so I was talking about how they actually split ID, like identification, from identity. Now, I'm one of those people where I thought they were the same thing. I actually thought they were the same thing. I used them interchangeably. And apparently I was wrong. They are, in fact, different according to what they're talking about. So as stupid as it may seem, I think it's always good we have an understanding of what, when we see these things, we know what they are actually referencing. So a digital ID versus a digital identity. Digital ID or identification is used to identifying, verifying, and authenticating who someone is. So this thing is just a way to verify who the person is. That's what the digital ID is. But a digital identity consists of layered aspects. So kind of like what we just went through here on the chart that they gave us. Consists of layered aspects of cultural heritage, ethnicity, age, professional and social roles, hobbies, gender identification. There's only two, and whatever you're born with, that's how it goes. Sexual orientation, and much more. So your identity is what makes you you, and then they can verify that through your ID. So as small as it might seem, and there's maybe somebody watching this going, "You didn't know that?" Well, I didn't. I use them interchangeably, which I think most people do. Which this may answer some questions when we start seeing more of the stuff that comes out and they specifically use one of those terms. We can now recognize what exactly they're talking about when it comes to this. So just thought I'd share that with you guys on that. So the digital ID, the ID is a passport for you, but a way to verify you as a key, but as a way to verify you as a key for your entire identity and life for them. So it's a passport for you, but it's a way for them to identify all of you for them. The digital ID is also a way to instantaneously allow information from the physical to be transferred to the digital version of you. And so what does that mean? So if you start traveling or you go anywhere and you have to use your digital ID for any reason, that data will be instantaneously transferred over to your digital version or your digital twin, and that information gets added to your database. Hopefully I'm not losing anybody.